Jewel. Jewel's passion is becoming 100% human potential consciously. Unlike the rest of us who like it. With over 30 years as a BioQuantum practitioner, Jules began to tap into a transcribed intelligence that is stored in the DNA. In learning to master this phenomenon, she was led to create a product holding DMT frequencies to awaken and decode molecular technology. Following a general intelligence held in dormant DNA codes, Jewel began to see just how far we can go advancing a molecular form to awaken the 90% of human potential that we are not currently using. This potential can be unleashed by upgrading cells and moving beyond the chemical into the neurobodies. I'm excited to hear that. So everyone give it up for Jewel. Actually, it's Jewels, right?
Jewels. You know, it's so funny how they actually, I did an interview with Dave, so if you guys haven't checked that out, definitely go check that out. But that's what he had on there. It was Jewel. And I'm like, maybe I should change it to Jewel. I kind of like that. It's pretty. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. So this is BioQuantum Skincare, Breaking Quantum Physics, and what I want you to just be kind of holding as we go through this is what would it mean to actually break quantum physics. And I'm going to be going through some slides here, inviting you into an experience. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Okay, is that better? Yeah. Yay, you're like. Okay, I'll start over. So I'm Jules. I am the founder and creator of of BioQuantum Skincare, and I also have an ascension school. It's Activate Evolution, where we teach how to decode molecular technology consciously. So the way you can see it is we're talking about a technology. It's a scalar technology that's in our skincare. It's in the Arnes. If there's some of you that can go back and maybe ingest some of that if you haven't already at the end, we'll have some back there for you to try. You're going to learn about what Arnes is. You're going to learn about what the quantum body is and how we're using DMT to actually turn that on. One thing I like to say is if I say some words that challenge you, like God or source or universal intelligence, I'm talking about one intelligence, and that's the intelligence that you were created as, your innate being. And I will most likely call it source intelligence, but if that doesn't resonate with you, put whatever word there that does resonate with you, because this isn't about religion. This isn't about even science. This is about tapping into something that's beyond all of that. And that can be challenging for some people. So whatever challenges you, let it challenge you enough that it kind of breaks you into a higher perspective, but not so much that you turn off. So whatever resonates, take that with you. Whatever doesn't, leave it behind, because by the end of this, my goal is that everybody is leaving in a higher perspective, in a higher frequency, and that you feel something turning on inside of you, and that you start to actually connect to the quantum body, which is the next in human evolution. That is my passion, is to really move beyond what we're experiencing as humans now and start tapping into what the possibility of what we're becoming. So let's get started. I'm get my little clicker here. See if I go the right way. Yes. So what is DMT? We're going to start with DMT is a frequency. You can measure it at 963 hertz. And this frequency is what we're using to decode molecular technology. It's also a chemical that's released from the pineal gland. Some of you, I'm sure, has anybody here done ayahuasca or smoked DMT? So you have the experience of what it feels like to have DMT released. And it's also already in our body. We have it in trace amounts in our spinal fluid, in our brain, and in our tissues. But what I want to talk about is the frequency of DMT. There is some Arnes in the back. Arnes is also, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but just know that ingesting Arnes or using Arnes on a daily basis is kind of like microdosing DMT on a chemical level. But we can use this same chemical as a frequency. I want you to notice where the pineal gland is here, because we're going to be using the pineal gland a little bit later when we do the DMT activation. So just recognizing where that is. Okay, this is the fun part. I'm actually going to put this down while I say this. A friend of ours, of my family's, passed away about 1.5 years ago. His name is Abel. He passed away on his 22nd birthday. And yes, I talk to dead people. Let's just put that out there. Okay? It happens. I do it. If there's a reason for them to come through, they come through. But what he said when he came to me was, it's not supposed to be this way. And I was just standing in my kitchen, and everything in me knew that he was right. And what he was saying is that we're not supposed to die. That isn't the actual human experience that we're supposed to be having. And he started to show me all these images of looping cycles and how our body is in a looping cycle. Our cells are in a looping cycle. Our consciousness is in a looping cycle. Even the very reality that we're experiencing both in the body and in our reality outside of us are all based on looping cycles. And he showed me that it was a looping cycle because we're observing through the programmed body. And so he started to show me how we can break that looping cycle. And it's using the frequency of DMT. So when we are born, DMT is released from the pineal gland. And what he was showing is that he actually showed, and as he was showing me all of this happening, is that a frequency actually comes in, and that's what's releasing the chemical in our body. But that frequency continues and transcribes an intelligence in our DNA. And that intelligence, you could say, is source frequency or source intelligence. But it's our innate being. It's who we are at 100%. And then when we die, that same intelligence leaves the DNA, and then it leaves the body. But this is the part that I find really interesting, is that at the same time that is happening, consciousness, the part of us that we're aware of who we are and that we are here, is stored in all of the electrons of our body. And when we die and that frequency leaves the body, all of the electrons also leave the body. And those electrons merge back with source intelligence, or that frequency of DMT, and our consciousness becomes one with the intelligence. And that's when we go back into our innate being. And what he said is that we don't have to die to have that experience. And not only do we not have to die to have that experience, but we're not supposed to. We're supposed to actively participate by bringing electrons or consciousness into the frequency of DMT so that we can turn on 100% human potential. Well, what is that? What is 100% human potential? It's the quantum body. That is the next level of human evolution, is the quantum body. So right now, the experience of the body, we experience it in more of a primal way. Where it's the chemicals, the neurotransmitters, the nervous system, all of these things that we're trying to upgrade by doing we do it right, you guys, and we're doing the supplements, we're meditating, we're doing everything we can to bring our bodies into that. I mean, how many times are you guys, you're just in this place where I just need to go back inside. I just need to go back and just settle into me. That part of you is the part that knows that our experience is more than what we're experiencing. When we start to turn, I want you to actually look at this little man over here too. Because for me, that is the quantum body. When we start to awaken these frequencies, and we start to awaken that DMT in our DNA, we call them awakening dormant DNA codes. And when those start to turn on, it starts to create another body.
And that body does kind of look like this man. We really become an organic technology. We are the most advanced technology there is. And really take that in. I find it really interesting that we're always creating things outside of ourselves. We have quantum computers, and we're studying this, and we're studying that with the AI. I mean, really think about it. When we break quantum physics, and when we actually become 100% of this intelligence, we are that. We don't need to create it outside of ourselves anymore. One of my favorite things is that when we learn to do this, we become our own Google system. And we call it the Google system because we are the Google. So meaning that you can be like, okay, well, I want to learn about this. You just go inside, turn on that intelligence, let that intelligence express into your body, and then you use the tool that you were given, your consciousness, to attune to that frequency, and then you become it. The Matrix, I need the program of how to fly a helicopter. Give it a few moments, it uploads into your body, you go and you fly the helicopter. This is where we're going in human evolution, and it's exciting. I hope you guys feel that it's so exciting, because I find it exciting. All right, so let's move on. Before we move into the next place that I'm going to kind of bring you guys into, is I want you to just experience how quickly you can shift the frequency of your body. So this image right here is called a DMT accelerator. It is coded with scalar waves to create an experience. So what I want you to do is to see your body inside of this image. So just allow, and if some of you aren't visual, that's okay. Make sure that people over, can you guys see it okay? I'm in the way. And then when you feel as though you kind of have that image in your head, or you have the feeling, whatever your senses are, your strongest sense, just use that. Go ahead and shut your eyes. And just go inside and go into the body. So what this scalar technology is doing is putting your body into no space, no time. And it's allowing your consciousness to connect to the body in no space, no time. Your body already knows it's multidimensional. Your body already knows it is in a quantum field. So just allow yourself to experience that for just a moment. And then when you feel as though you're kind of holding that field, I'll let you go ahead and open your eyes. And we'll continue. As we move into the quantum body, it is consciousness that we'll use as the tool to become that intelligence, that 963 hertz source frequency, the consciousness or the intelligence that you were created in. So knowing what level of consciousness you're in is going to change everything. One of my passions is, yes, let's deliver the frequencies. Let's start turning on the quantum body. But even more importantly, I love to teach people how to hold consciousness in that frequency, because that's what's going to create the biggest change for you, so that you get to actively participate in the ascension of your own body. The first level of consciousness is just being unconscious. And I don't, how many people had like a big awakening where they just woke up one day and they knew that they had the ability to not only observe their own thoughts, but actually shift the way they were thinking? How many people have had that experience? Then there's some of us that, how many of you just know that you just were born awake? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how many of you, your biggest awakening was you found out if not everybody was awake? So, and then we're always, even, no matter how awakened we are, we're always going to have times where we're going to wake up or we're going to have an insight or we have those aha moments. So that is a level of the first level too. It's just you're not aware of a program that's running and then you become aware. The second level of consciousness is that awareness. It's the awakening. And in this level of consciousness is when we start to create choice. We know I can either live my life the way I was living it before, or I can choose to do something different. This is a really powerful place to be because choice is what creates change. It could be as simple as I now know that I'm allergic to gluten and I'm going to choose not to. That is a level of awakening. Then we go into the third level of consciousness, which is the level of consciousness that most people get stuck in. And this is trying to make it happen. So when we create the choice that we want to do something different, we go and we try to make that choice happen. But what happens when we stay in this space is that we're trying to create through our own programming. The programming of our beliefs, the programming of our body, the programming of what our body is used to holding on a frequency level. And that frequency has an intelligence, right? So the way you can see it is in this first place, let's say it's measured, if we were to measure in frequency, let's say it's 75. And then you have the awakening, it raises your frequency to 80. And then you're wanting to move out of that into another experience, but your body is really used to being in that 75 to 80 range. To move into 120, you have to be able to hold consciousness in that frequency, or the body will immediately go back into unconscious behavior in that frequency of 70 to 80 in that space. So the trying to make it happen is when we're trying to do things through the same level of consciousness that created these lower states in order to create something different. This is also the place where you could say that you can change your mindset and then you start to create some different outcomes. There's a lot of value in that. But what I want to talk about is moving into the fourth level of consciousness, because this is where the magic starts to happen. This is where we really start to tap into our potential. And that's the fourth level of consciousness. And I call it the listen and do. It's when we start to listen to that intelligence that is stored inside of us, and we start to hear something beyond our own program. Listening and doing. When you are choosing to create something different, that intelligence turns on. That frequency turns on in your body. And we have the tool to start to listen to what that intelligence is saying. And that's our consciousness. That's when it can be a little, how many of you have had the experience where you have no idea where the idea came from, but it just came in? How many people have done that but didn't listen? And then how many of you have do it and you listen? And then you're like, gosh, thank God I listened to that, right? So you're listening to the intelligence. I think most of us have had the experience of listening and doing, but this is actually a state of being that we can be in all the time. And this is part of creating the quantum body, and this is part of creating the next in human evolution. I do want to tap into what the fifth level of consciousness is, though, because this is the advanced human. This is going to be the experience where we do break quantum physics. This is when we are the creator and the creation at the same time. There is no listening and then going to do. Consciousness is so attuned to the intelligence that we actually become the intelligence. And then there's no observation. There is no, okay, this is the way, I love this. For those of you that are intuitive, You see without seeing. You hear without hearing. You sense without sensing. Because you don't need to. Because the intelligence is holding the intelligence of everything. There's no need to actually observe anything because you already know it without having to know it, if that makes sense. It's the ability to exist without existing. It's the ability to think without thinking. You are just intelligence. So when you are in creation, you are the creator at the same time. And there's no part of you that is walking outside or stepping outside of that creation to see what's being created. That never happens. If that happens, you move down to these lower levels of consciousness. That's exciting. Okay. But where's the body in this? The body is actually connected to each state of consciousness. Our experience of the body is a direct reflection of our consciousness. We all can go to higher states of consciousness when we do things like meditation, when we do ayahuasca, when we do DMT, when we do different things to experience a higher level of consciousness. Our consciousness can go really far, but our body's not coming with us. And that's part of the looping cycle. So what we're doing is we're bringing that same experience into the body so that the body can actually come with us, because the body actually is supposed to. It's designed to be able to hold those frequencies and have those same experiences. So whether or not you can go to a really high state of consciousness or not, it's relevant, but it's not relevant if we're not bringing the body with us. It's the next step of human evolution. So what I want to show you is how each of these levels of consciousness is connected to your experience of your body. So when we go to the first level, or the unconscious, is the primal body. This is when this is when you're walking, or you have a relationship with somebody, and you're just like, oh, who am I going to get today? You're walking on eggshells. They're just triggered all the time. Triggered. They are the ones that an infomercial will come on and they're, oh my gosh, I have to buy it because they're going to run out, right? They're just in that primal body. It's just reaction. How many of you know somebody that's like this? How many of you have been this? So we know the primal body. Then the second level, or the second body, is the chemical body. And this is connected to that waking up. When we wake up, a lot of us have a lot of emotion around that, because I found out what I don't want and I know what I do want, and we're going searching for whatever emotion that we don't want or we do want. So everything is about releasing a chemical of, let's say, the dopamine for the quick fix, the oxytocin because we want to feel love. We get addicted to the chemicals of our body in order to create an experience. How many of you are addicted to the chemical responses of your body? Either by love, by wanting to do something in order to create an emotion. Because that's actually really important to know about yourself, is where am I choosing from? Am I choosing in order to create an emotion? Or am I choosing through the intelligence? Which brings us into the third body, which is connected to the neurotransmitters, the nervous system. This is also when you are starting to try to create a new mindset by rewiring your brain in order to have a new experience. But you have to think about this, because in order to really exist, to really exist in the quantum body, we have to move out of programming altogether. So even if we're reprogramming, we're still reprogramming through our programming, right? That's kind of, really take that in. Even when we're reprogramming through our programming. Because unless we are in that listen and do those either the fourth or fifth level of consciousness, it is the only way that we're reprogramming through an intelligence outside of our programming. This is how we turn on the quantum body. This is how we can actually exist in the quantum body. So the fourth level is the quantum body. It's the experience of the body beyond primal, beyond the chemicals, beyond the neurotransmitters in the nervous system. It is the technology that is created by connecting the electrons to the intelligence, or DMT. And when we do that, we start to create the quantum body. We move beyond the chemicals. We move beyond the neurotransmitters. We actually break out of the 10% of our body that we're actually experiencing, and we start to tap into the other 90%. That is the next in human evolution. So what is DMT actually doing? It is actually shifting on a cellular level. So it's breaking the looping cycles of how the cells are functioning in our body. How many of you guys know epigenetic codes? What epigenetic codes are? Okay, well, we'll talk a little bit about that. So the way that your cells are functioning now is, here's your cell nucleus, and then you have the DNA here. And the environment of your body will decide how healthy your cells are. So it's what you eat. It's how much you exercise. It's the environment that you live in, right? If you live in a toxic environment, that's going to affect your body, like mold, those kind of things. But also your belief systems are going to affect your body. What vibration your thoughts are in are going to affect the frequency of your body. That is the way that you are experiencing the body right now. So this is what the DNA is doing. It is hooking into your environment in order to be told what to do. So it's looking for, am I safe? Am I getting the right amount of nutrients? Am I having enough sleep? What thoughts am I thinking? So the DNA is going and it's hooking into its environment in order to know what to do, how to function. And if it's hooking into an environment that's toxic by your thoughts, by eating poorly, all of those things, it's going to bring that information back into the DNA, and over time, it can start to turn on epigenetic codes. Well, guess what? Aging is an epigenetic code. How many of you know who Dr. Sinclair is? Yes. So aging is an epigenetic code that gets turned on. Now just think about what Vail said. We're not supposed to die. If aging is an epigenetic code that gets turned on, and we actually have, this is the cool thing about epigenetic codes, is they also can get turned off. And we all have had that experience. How many of us have had, somebody that we know that maybe had diabetes and then changed their diet and the way they lived, and all of a sudden they don't have diabetes anymore? Same with cancer. There's people that have instantly healed of cancer by turning off these codes. Our DNA is a technology. It's very, very intelligent. So this is the way we are stuck in the looping cycle right now, is that our cells are an observation of the environment of your body. The way I want you to see the environment of your body is the what frequency it's holding. And the way I want to describe this is, how many of you have gone on like a yoga retreat or even something like this where you go and you're just around really high frequencies for a long period of time? And you're thinking, when I get home, I'm going to eat better. When I get home, I'm going to create this. When I get home, I'm going to do all these things, because you're in this frequency where you feel unstoppable, right? You feel like, oh my gosh, why haven't I done this yet? And then you get home and maybe you hold it for a couple days, and then all of a sudden you're back into the place that you were before. And like, oh, how do I get back there? And so what was the environment that you were in was supporting you in having these higher frequency thoughts and higher frequency, so that it was easy to choose to eat healthy. But then when you were back in the environment of your normal life, it was harder to do it. When we start to activate DMT in the DNA, or turn on those dormant DNA codes, your body becomes the environment. Your retreat is you. Because when we turn on the frequencies of your cells, your body raises in frequency. When your body raises in frequency, your thoughts raise in frequency. Your consciousness raises in frequency. And you start to choose through the intelligence instead of your programming. When we start to turn on dormant DNA codes, the cell moves into expression. So instead of hooking into the environment to be told what to do, it starts to turn on the codes, and that frequency moves into the cells. And the way that you can see it, it's like the sun. The sun just shines. It is just releasing a frequency. It's not going outside of itself looking for information, because it has all the energy that it needs. It has everything that it needs. So there's no reason to observe what's outside of itself. It turns on the fifth level of consciousness, where the cell actually becomes the creator and the creation at the same time. Our experience of that will be to go through the quantum body, where we are listening and doing because we want to bring consciousness with us. When we start to turn on the frequency, our cells start to move into optimum performance. We start to move into that space of that DMT accelerator, where we start to hold the frequency pattern of no space, no time. But we can hold consciousness inside of that. And that's a really big concept to kind of sit in. But this is why we turn on the cells first. Because the cells understand this. Our cells, our body will turn on way before we intellectually understand what's happening. You already have a quantum body. The only reason you're not experiencing it right now is because consciousness isn't being held in that body. That's why we have to learn to hold consciousness in these higher spaces, so that we can start to have the experience of what the body is capable of beyond our own programming. Going back to those fourth and fifth levels of consciousness, this will be the experience of how we ascend the body. Okay, so what does all of this have to do with skincare? I mean, that's a big concept. My passion is just to deliver the frequency, right? And so what we have done is we have taken a product that you use every 12 hours, because anytime you're introducing a frequency, you want to introduce it every 12 hours. But we're also absorbing it through the skin, because the skin is your biggest organ. But it's also the organ that you're always looking at. So when you are absorbing these frequencies through the skin, and you are always looking at the observation of what those frequencies are doing, it gives you the opportunity to actively participate in seeing beyond the illusion of what you're seeing in the mirror. So we do a lot of fun things with how to apply your skincare and actually hold the fourth and fifth level of consciousness while you're doing it. Your cells are absorbing those frequencies, and then of course you don't have to remember to do anything, because you're going to do your skincare anyways. So you're always doing this every 12 hours, so your body is consistently bringing in those frequencies, and over time you start to have that shift in consciousness. The Arnes activator, which we have some little shot glasses back there for everybody to experience if you haven't already. We'll let you go back and experience that a little bit later. But I would say that's our superstar product. It's one that is actively releasing DMT both on a chemical level, but also through the frequency. So Arnes, or ORMA, is called orbited rearranged monoatomic element. It is an element that is in a spin state. It's been around since the Egyptian years. You know, it is one of those things where it's really hard to study it because it's such a unique element. So when it's looked at under a microscope, a scientist will be able to tell, oh, that's going to be the element of copper. But as soon as you start to hone in and you see the element, it spins. So it actually spins, it moves into the quantum field, and then it comes back. So they call it the fifth dimensional element because it actually disappears. We don't see it because it is in the quantum field at that point. But that same element will come back, and that's why they call it orbited rearranged. When you are ingesting this or transdermally bringing it into the body, your body is starting to know it's both form and quantum at the same time. We also add the frequency of DMT so that you're consistently resonating in that frequency, and those dormant DNA codes start to turn on. One of the other things that they're showing, just more on a scientific level, that Arnes is doing is it is extending telomere length. So it's already showing that it has the ability to start turning on that body or bringing it into that new time, new space. Bringing it in that other 90% that we're not using. It's starting to turn that on. It's releasing, it does show that it's activating higher consciousness or releasing the DMT. I think we'll leave it at that. Just knowing that the skincare is holding the technology of everything that I've shared with you so that your body can start to resonate consciously in the next of human evolution. How many of you want to experience a DMT activation? Okay, so on your chairs, you're all going to see you have a card. And you're going to see these little codes on there. So go ahead and take that card out. And while you're taking that out, there's one more exercise that I want to do so that when you're having the experience of working with these codes, that you're doing it from the fourth level of consciousness. So I'm going to show you a really quick way of knowing which level of consciousness you're in. So go ahead and shut your eyes. And I want you to imagine a sunflower. And if you can't see, just sense it. Know a sunflower. And just let that image come to your, just imagine. Sense it. Okay, so now open your eyes and check it out. Resetting. Now I want you to shut your eyes. And I want you to ask that intelligence to show you a sunflower. And just notice how it's different. And I'll have everybody open their eyes once they've had that experience. How many of you could tell the difference between the two of imagining? Perfect. So that second space of allowing the intelligence to show you versus imagination is the difference between programming and tapping into the intelligence. It's really that easy, right? We just have to fine tune and know what level of consciousness is everything. It really is. It's everything. Okay, so let's do the DMT activation. So go ahead and allow yourself to move back into the TMT accelerator, so putting your body inside the accelerator. And then we're going to work with the first code. So what I want you to do is you'll see on your card, you're going to see the same code here. And just place your thumb on the code. And then if you want to look at the code, you can look at it, or you can just sense it through your finger. But go ahead and check. So go ahead and shut your eyes now that you've seen the code. And you're going to bring that code into the pineal gland, if you remember where that was on that image. And you're going to allow it to spin. And as it's spinning, it's connecting to every cell of your body. And it's starting to turn on that very specific frequency in your DNA. And now that it's turning on, I want you to start to see this frequency connecting and creating your quantum body. So sensing it, feeling it, whatever the experience, it's no right or wrong. If you're not feeling anything, that's okay too. Still looking. Okay, so now we're going to go and we're going to turn on the second code. So the second code is this one right here. It's the 9. So go ahead and place your finger on the code. And then bringing it into the pineal gland and allowing it to spin. And then just allowing your consciousness to kind of go into the experience of your body. As the DNA begins to turn on this code, and then uploads into your quantum system, your organic technology, your quantum body. And then we'll do the last code, which is the 33. This one right here. So again, just pressing on the code on your card. Seeing it enter the pineal gland. Begin to spin. As it activates the DNA, turning on that code. And then just letting it upload into your quantum body. And this time, before you open your eyes, allow your consciousness to enter the frequency of what was just created. Just see if you can bring your consciousness into the frequency of that intelligence. Intelligence of that quantum system. And then before you open your eyes, allow yourself in this moment to know that you have the ability to see without seeing. You have the ability to hear without hearing. And just let yourself have that experience in whatever way it is for you. Just to commit to the choice of experiencing what you are beyond your programmed reality. I'll even take it a step further. If there's something that you're trying to create in your life right now, that you want to know how to tap into an experience of that outside of your programming, invite that experience in right now. Allow the intelligence to show you. The quantum body is listening to. That's all you have to do. And then I'll let you all open your eyes when you feel that's complete. And just notice how your body's feeling. So, there are a couple QR codes up here. We do have a drawing for a free product. This one right here is, we actually have a course that teaches you how to hold consciousness and the intelligence that we'll be doing. So there's all sorts of fun things. If you are an influencer, we also have an influencer collaboration piece that we have as well. But now what I'd like to do, I'm not sure how much time we have left. Oh, I guess we're right at time. Darn, I wanted interaction. I talk too much. I just want to thank all of you for just spending this time with me. I definitely would love to talk more if you want to come to the booth. We are going to offer 50% off, even our discounted prices at the booth for those of you that came to this. It's going to be 50% off. Just tell us either that you were here at the speech or it's DMT 50, and we'll take 50% off of anything at our booth. So we do have the Ormus activator there, as well as some of our superstar products. We also have those cards that you were using. We actually have a scalar card that's not just paper. It's a copper card that has the codes actually engraved in different ways that you can use it, that we have there as well. So those are fun, even if you just come to experience it more on a higher frequency level, that it's fun to just go and do that experience. Oh, he's not in here anymore. I was going to say, do I have time for questions? Does anybody have a question that they're just dying to ask?
This paper card, like, can I do it again, or is it used up?
Oh no, they go forever. That's the great thing about the frequency is frequency, and everything that we have is actually scalar waves. So I feel like this is actually important, because the difference between a Hertz wave and a scalar wave is a Hertz wave diffuses over time and space, and a scalar wave does not. So just like you can see it like strumming a guitar, and after a while the sound goes away and it's gone. That frequency is gone. But with a scalar wave, you can actually convert Hertz into scalar, and then it goes forever. It doesn't diffuse over time and space. And that's what we're using in our products. So those frequencies are consistent, and they don't run out. Yes.
So the drops that we tried here,
Yes.
You can do that every day. Does that help you get to the higher levels where you can?
Yes, and that's the place. It's like, yes, it will. And then the more that you learn to hold consciousness in that frequency, is how fast it's going to go. Because either way, you're going to start to notice the shift. And of course, more conscious you are in the shift, the faster the shift's going to go, the higher frequency. Because you can see it right now. You're a tuning rod, right? Your consciousness is as well. So when you're turning on a higher frequency, you will eventually feel that. But wherever you are consciously is where you're going to experience the intelligence. So if you're experiencing 20% of source intelligence, let's say, that's the level of consciousness, and that's the reality you'll be in. But when you move up, you're able to hold consciousness in, let's say, 700, which is actually the frequency of enlightenment, then you're going to have a completely different reality and a different experience of your body. Everything's going to be different. So consciousness is the tool that we use to be able to elevate. And of course, our goal is to get to 963. Yes?
So when you feel something like lowering your frequency, like how do you personally get it back up?
I love this question. This is a huge part of my passion is teaching that. So first of all, it's noticing that there was a shift, right? So it's going from there to there. Oh, there was a shift in consciousness. or a shift in frequency, then the very first thing I do is I ask, am I in danger? Because there is a reason that you're aware of it, right? And if the answer is no, then I ask, is there information that I need? So instead of going, oh, no, look at me that feels, it's, oh, there's information. What is the information? I'll read the information. And if it's important, then I pay attention, but I don't have to take it on. Because once I have the information, I know what I need to know. And then I'll go back into my own frequency, right? But it's a choice. You have to be aware. What happens with us sensitives is that we just start, we're like tuning rods is like, and then we're exhausted, and then we don't even know what's happening. But that's why it's a boundary thing. And it doesn't mean we have to be shielded and protected. We have to be conscious. Consciousness is our biggest tool. Consciousness is everything.
Yeah. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yes. Anybody else have a question?
Yeah. Is the spinning towards clockwise or counter?
It doesn't really matter. It's more of just an indicator to the cells that it's time to turn it on. Mm-hmm. So whichever, let it actually just show you, instead of trying to make it happen, that third level of consciousness, just allow. So when we say bring it into the pineal gland and allow it to spin, it's enough to just say spin and then let it do it. So it's kind of like show me versus imagining. Go to the show me.
So this mandala or insignia or whatever it is has a Jewish star in it. I don't know if it's a Jewish star, but does that have meaning?
It does. So first of all, the outside symbols are actually a technology, and each one of them is doing something very specific. And then the triangles actually represent everything. It's some of what I just taught you. So it's our basic foundation. So it's the 5 levels of consciousness, the 5 bodies. Then there's actually elements that hold states of consciousness. So there's actually 7, but we put them into 5 different ones. And then the last one is the ability to actually attune to it through intuition. So we teach, there's 3 levels of intuition that we teach. And most of the people that are experiencing intuition is more of that first level. But there's actually 2 other levels of intuition that are connected to the levels of consciousness. So each of those are our foundations, and it's creating a scalar frequency. Anybody else have a question?
Is this the only way to learn this, or is there a book, or?
So we have a book. Yeah, thank you for asking. We actually are really close to, we're going to have a part 1 and part 2 because we decided we don't want to wait. We want to get it out there. So we do have a book. It's going to hopefully be out within the next couple of months that teaches the basic foundation of what I just said. And but then we have just the basic foundation course where we actually teach it on live, and we do a lot with frequency. So we have, the course itself comes with essential oils that are coded. So there's serotonin, there's dopamine, there's oxytocin, and then DMT. So you're actually learning to actually experience the chemical and neuro body in the quantum body through the experience of the coded oils, because the coded oils are basically programming the body out of this and then into the quantum field, and then we teach you how to hold consciousness through that experience. So it's a lot of fun to do, but yes, we will have the book out eventually, hopefully. It will happen.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Is this a derivative of Joe Dispenza's work?
I've never studied Joe Dispenza, but I've had some people say, oh, that kind of sounds like Joe Dispenza. So I don't ever listen to podcasts. I don't read other people's book. I don't study anybody else. The only thing I study is the intelligence, and that's it. So everything that I have created has been through turning on my own Yugal system and putting it into creation. I have heard, I've had a couple of people that we work with that have worked with Joe Dispenza, And I'm going to go as far as to say this. It's a pretty bold statement, but a lot of them are saying, oh, this is what's after. Yeah, this is what's after.
So between the coated oil and the activator, are they both sharing the same frequency, 973?
So it's 9. So the one oil that we have the DMT oil that's 963, and then the other ones are actually allowing your body to have the experience of that dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, but it's teaching your body how to actually have emotion without emotion. So that you're not in the chemical body, you're in the frequency of love. You're in the frequency. So love is 528. The dopamine is actually more of like that joy, that excitement. And I believe I want to say it's like 732. And then, what am I missing? Serotonin is 432. So it's teaching you to actually identify in frequency over chemical.
And the frequency is like being engraved from the ingredients in the activator, or is it an extra like way to say inject the frequency in the bottle?
The bottle is holding the frequencies. Yeah, so the bottle is actually coded. So it's not just the frequency; it's also coded to bring. It's basically to take the body out of the chemical body into the quantum body, and it's doing it through frequency, but the end result is the frequency.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Questions? What booth are you? What's your booth number?
It's 322.
And how did you learn? I know you said you don't read any books. How did you learn how to do this?
So what I learned was how to read frequency, and that I worked with a Lakota medicine woman, and I did that for about 6 years. Actually, even before then, I was working with a lady that just noticed that, you're gifted, and she started teaching me how to read energy fields, and did a lot with like Barbara Brennan's work. So I've been doing it since I was 16. It's when I started reading frequency.
Do we drink these?
Yeah.
Kimberly? Did you do
No, I never did that. I did some of Barbara Brennan's work, and then I did some Reiki, quantum touch, again, kind of all the. And then I did the apprenticeship with the Lakota, which was really fascinating because she actually taught us how to release DMT without doing psychedelics, which was huge. And of course, I was only like 18 at the time, so I didn't even know how cool it was. And then, I finally got to a place where I just knew the only way to keep going was to cut off and stop looking for other people to teach me what I already knew. And that's when everything just opened up. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Okay.